My name is Kris Gethin, and what I aim to bring to you is inspiration, motivation from clients, everything that will allow you to evolve as a human being. Hello, everybody. My name is Kris Gethin. This is the Knowledge and Mileage podcast, and this is our Transformation Tuesday, where I do highlight an amazing transformation of one of my online clients. And that online client that I have today, who has gone through an amazing transformation, not just from a physique standpoint, but from a physical performance standpoint. And that is Brady Shaw. Welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, where you're calling in from, your family, your lifestyle, your job, and what was it that was the tipping point for you to say, you know what, I think I need personal training? What was it that said you needed the guidance that would take you from point A to point B?
Yeah, definitely. Basically I'm a kind of a guy that's been in fitness to some degree. I mean, obviously it's most average people from high school and whatnot. A little bit about me though, I'm from Western Nebraska, from Gearing area. And I've got a wife and two kids. Just had a baby here a little while ago. So I got a 3-month-old and a 4-year-old. And so like I was saying, I mean, I've been in fitness for a while. I mean, just kind of in and out throughout my whole life, always passionate about it. But it kind of just came to a point where, enough was enough. And it was kind of one of those where probably the ultimate factor was I kind of had the dad bod. My wife when we had our firstborn, she put on obviously the pregnancy weight. I put on the dad weight. And then hers obviously came off right away with breastfeeding, and then mine didn't. And I kind of just accepted it. I kind of thought, I felt like I was pretty strong. And so I just kind of felt like I was just thick. And I was kind of somewhat in denial. And then finally, just one day, I kind of woke up and was like, I got to get this under control. This is ridiculous. You kind of look at the scale and kind of what you used to be, and kind of look at some pictures, and, it's just like, well, enough's enough. And, so basically I kind of just pulled the trigger and thought, here's what I need. And a lot of times, as you know, probably anyone will know, when you have accountability and everything, that's kind of almost, worth its weight in gold to some extent. But I've kind of been following you for a while, and I kind of, you'd put out a deal about taking on some VIP clients. And I thought, I think this is it. This is what I need. I need something that's more personal. And you were a lot more of the kind of guy I am in terms of kind of how you go after goals, you go all out. That was kind of me. You go, head first, get into it. And then as far as the fitness side goes, I mean, I was super interested in just the whole hybrid athlete concept. Like I said, I'd been doing some tries in the past, to some extent, not really that competitive. And so I kind of, with my size though, I was kind of always thinking, well, I'm gonna compete at the Clydesdale size. I'm gonna bulk up. I'm gonna be the big guy, because basically I was kind of at the Clydesdale size, but I was competing in my age group. And so obviously all these string beans and other guys that are running are smoking me. And so I just kind of was like, man, if I put my time into a Clydesdale time, I would have been totally better off. So anyways, part of that is then, I knew with your doing your triathlons and your Ironman and whatnot, I'm like, all right, this is the guy that I want to follow. This is the guy I want to be like, because he's got the size, he's got the physique, but he's also doing the tries, which is what I want to do. So I kind of just was like, this is it. So I reached out, pulled the trigger, and basically never looked back.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously it's one goal to get in shape. It's another goal to be able to finish triathlons and be competitive as well at the same time. It's hard work. You really have to focus on your recovery to allow it to dictate your performance. Now, what sort of obstacles is it that you had faced which allowed you to put on weight? Obviously, you have you had a child, and now you've got a second child. Was it like work commitments? Working extensive hours? What was the mental block that was holding you back?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it, and that's, I guess I didn't mention before, but so what I do for a living is I have a house, or I have a business where I design house plans, blueprints for new homes. But about the same time, then I'd also taken on another job where I started working as a consultant for other big commercial healthcare construction projects. And at that time, I mean, that the stress level was pretty high. I was working anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a week. And so that obviously, when I'm stressed out and working a lot like that, then obviously stressy, you kind of do those types of things. And then other things go by the wayside. Your training, your fitness regimens. I mean, I was still somewhat getting some of my lifting regimens in, but cardio was completely out of the picture. I mean, I barely had enough time to get in any type of lifting. And so that was basically all compounding factors.
Right. Okay. Got it. So then you decided you wanted to get in shape. We obviously connected and, put together a program, which you did phenomenal in following, especially given, like you said, the things, your responsibilities that you have. And you dropped, from what I recall, it was like 34 pounds. Was it about 34 pounds over that initial 12-week period, which is a substantial amount? What I'm actually going to do, I've got pictures here. So I'm going to hold it up to the camera that I've got over here. That was a before picture right there. Okay, so bit of a dad bod happening there. and then what we got to was there. Okay, and that was like 34 pounds lighter there. Obviously a substantial amount of muscle has got on. You've obviously leaned out, got a great six-pack there, chest, arm, shoulder definition. And tell us, obviously that's from a physical transformation standpoint. What sort of mental transformation had you encountered during this time?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of mental transformations, and this was all obviously going right through. I mean, this was 2020 essentially when we first started, so this was all right in the cusp of COVID and all that crap. And so, mental wise, though, I one of the biggest things for me was, it's kind of one of the old adage that when you're depressed, you eat, and when you eat, you're depressed. And so it was kind of that mental state. It was, I never, like I said, being in fitness to some extent, as far as just being interested in it, I'd always kind of follow a plan, and I'd follow it for, a week or a month at the most. And then I'd kind of drop off, I'd maybe see results and it's like, oh, that's enough. And so, like I said, when I first started this program, I was in denial. So I thought, oh, I bet I got 10 pounds to lose. I never could even imagine I would have had 34 pounds to lose. And then even after the fact, when I told people that, a lot of times they were shocked and surprised that I had that much to lose too. So it's kind of like everybody just kind of accepted, including myself, who I was. And so that mental part was big in terms of just finally sticking to something, being dedicated to something. I mean, because when you look at this program, I mean, I was just thinking about today because it wasn't just about the fitness part. It wasn't just about the diet. I mean, it was just, it was the biohacks. It was all the little stuff that you have to stay committed to. And so for me, that was a huge mental thing because, I feel like there's also to some extent, and as you run into in the beginning, when you're not seeing initial results, I mean, everyone wants to start something. They want to see a result right now. When it takes a little bit for you to see those results, that's when people start, I feel like, especially me in the past, get complacent or get frustrated and then just not necessarily quit, just kind of peter out. And so for me, it was kind of getting through that, being like, okay, I know this is going to get results. I know I'm going to get there. I'm starting to see some small results. I want to see bigger, but it's just like the more you got into it, the more those results start compounding. Instead of losing, initially maybe not even losing anything on your waist, then all of a sudden, you're dropping an inch on your waist. You're just killing it to where then it's a mental part in terms of then you got to reverse amp yourself up. So, I mean, you got to build on yourself and boost yourself in terms of, take those little wins, take those little accomplishments, take even those compliments that you're getting from other people in terms of, wow, I can't believe how dedicated you're being with this, and just use that as motivation. I mean, a lot of times too, and again, COVID, I would say, actually kind of helped me in that, because it's kind of the whole do what other people aren't doing right now. Be the person that you need to be because other people aren't going to, and the whole do today what you can so that tomorrow you can do what others can't. That kind of whole theme was kind of what drove me, because yeah, I'm out there busting it I mean, I'm running up, we have a monument here in town that's got a huge incline, and, we're running that almost every other day. I'm just doing stuff that people look at and they're like, "You're nuts." But at the end, then I can be like, "See, that's why I did it." And so that mental part for me was huge because it taught me a lot to, in terms of just staying dedicated to stuff. I mean, I've always kind of been a driven guy. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur and that type of deal, but just staying to something like this where it's your body, it's you're taking care of yourself. A lot of times I'm happy to be dedicated where I'm taking care of other people, but hardly ever am I looking at myself. So I think that was the biggest mental thing. The other mental thing too, which I kind of mentioned to you in the beginning, I'd kind of been on some medications and other types of deals for anxiety and that type of deal, depression. And so basically I kind of quit those cold turkey when I started this plan because I'm like, you know what? I know aerobics and those types of deals can really help with that. I'm just going to use that as part of it. I'm going to stay dedicated because I think as I improve my physique, that's going to help with some of my emotional things, improve with some of my, anxiety, maybe depression, some of that, and basically just kind of looked at it as an overall transformation for me as a whole. Like I said, mental, physical, the whole deal. It wasn't just about losing weight. It was just basically I needed a change.
Yeah, and a lot of people do get that effect. Now you're, releasing endorphins, the feel-good hormones. You're staying away from sugars or vegetable oils or a lot of bleached starch carbs, which can be pro-inflammatory. And that inflammation can then lead to a chemical reaction in the brain, and it could turn into like some sort of a brain disorder, anxiety, depression, anger, whatever. So when you clean house, and now you're feeding your body with fuel and food that is wholesome. It's not product, maybe it's grass-fed, it's humane raised, it's organic, that hasn't got pro-inflammatory omega-6. All of a sudden you feel better, and that's a side effect. A lot of people do get into this initially because they want the six-pack. But then when you feel better, obviously you're going to perform better, you're going to be a better person to be around, and then next thing, you're kind of hooked and hopefully influencing other people as well. So you went through the mental aspect. Now, let me ask you in regards to your energy, because obviously you mentioned that you're working long hours, you have, a baby, or now you've got two. How were your energy levels? Did you find that your energy levels were stretched? Because I know when you're doing mental labor, it is exhausting. Or did you feel like your energy levels now improved?
I feel like my energy level as a whole improved. I mean, I think what I was able to accomplish during that time, even work related, I think I was able to accomplish a lot more within less amount of time. I was more efficient with what I did. So I feel like my energy levels improved a ton. I just felt, yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, part of that was the diet. I mean, when you're eating crap, you feel like crap. And so, I mean, I think I was just overall mood, effectiveness on my job, doing those types of things. Like I said, I was able to pack a lot more into the same amount of time. I mean, before that, I'd be working. I mean, I'd be maybe get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. And so through this, I kind of tried to also change that to be more dedicated and getting the rest I needed for my body, for my mental state, and just trying to do that. So then that did force me then, because I was trying to be dedicated on that side, that forced me to be more efficient and more effective with my time and spend it more wisely, in case, if there was anything that was in there that was obviously a distraction.
Yeah, and like you said earlier in this interview, it's the little things that really do add up that help. Obviously, if you're tracking your sleep, you're focused on your sleep, because that will dictate how you feel the following day. And then, the little biohacks that we suggest, like I suggested, like the meditation, the earthing, the grounding, switching off your devices a good hour or so before bed and after waking up, and trying to block artificial light whenever possible. All of these do add up, these little effects. Now, we touched on nutrition a little bit. Now, when it came to eating, obviously the frequency that you had to eat, and it's kind of like there's no cheat meals or cheat days, I should say, or anything like that. Did you find that it was inconvenient to eat all those meals? And if it was, how did you overcome that inconvenience? And did you get any cravings as well?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know if that I'd say it was inconvenient. It was, luckily with my job and being somewhat self-employed, I basically could set my own schedule. So, eating whatever time I had to wasn't necessarily a big deal at all. I would say the biggest inconvenience, obviously, was when you're, doing life, when you're going out with friends and going over to family. I mean, there was one time we went over to my parents and they had made, my mom makes pretty awesome homemade pizza. And I took over my chicken and sweet potatoes and warmed it all up and was sitting there eating that while they were eating everything else. And I just blew their mind. They couldn't believe that I had enough willpower to turn that down. And so, I mean, I don't know if I'd say it was inconvenient. It was a lifestyle change. It was, it was what I needed to do to get where I was going to go. And so, but as far as frequency of meals, not really. I was able to adapt to that pretty easy. I mean, there was some things, some adjustments you made for me, obviously, that kind of helped with some of that in terms of, in the morning. That was probably the only inconvenient part because I'm not necessarily a breakfast guy. And so just trying to do it where I could do it more of it on the go and eat it as I'm going and kind of getting on with my day. That was probably the only true inconvenience. As far as cravings go, I mean, yeah, I'm a sweets guy. So, I mean, I like chocolate. And so that was always seemed like always a craving. And it was kind of funny because initially, I mean, for anything that you quit, initially the cravings were super high. It was like, oh man. And I remember at one point where I worked, there's a candy dish out there that had like chocolate kisses or something in it. And I grabbed a couple on my way out the door. And this was right after I started the program. And I stopped, turned around and went and put them back in because I'm like, no, it's not, you can't just cheat a little bit here and there. You got to be all in to get the most out of this. And so that, like I said, that kind of back to the mental part. That was just little adjustments that I had to make. But inconvenient, no, it was just, it's a change.
Yeah, and you've always got like a shake every now and again. If you cannot get in a solid meal, you can have a protein shake, obviously. When you mentioned about chocolate, let me ask you this, because this has happened with a few of my clients. If they have cravings for chocolate, sometimes having chocolate casein helps get rid of some of those cravings. Did that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, every night I did chocolate casing. And so, I mean, that kind of helped. Well, I guess I mainly did that once the second part of the training with you when I started doing more of the bulking. But yeah, I mean, that was a way to do it. There would be a couple times where I would mix a chocolate whey in with, some eggs and stuff like that, as far as my morning breakfast would go if I was in a real hurry. So yeah, there was little things like that it was easy to make a little substitution or, I mean, that was the main thing. I mean, there was a couple times I think later on when just the parts of the diet that did have the little amount of fruit, I would maybe just eat that part separate instead of mixing it in with the shake or whatever, and just trying to get that just a little bit of that fix. But I mean, honestly, like I said, once you get over kind of the initial what I call shock to your body, I kind of felt like the cravings essentially did go away. I mean, you always have cravings, but I mean, they weren't intense. They were ones that you can manage pretty easy.
Yeah, and having that like frequent meals and like cold showers or ice baths really help with that blood sugar stability as well, so you don't have so much of a crash. Now, you came when you came on board, you wanted obviously to compete in triathlon as well as bodybuild, and your goal was to do Olympic distance triathlon and be competitive at that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your history with triathlon? And then, I know initially in the first year we wanted to compete, but we couldn't because the cancellation of events due to COVID. But then you competed the year following. I believe it was pretty much the same month, the year following. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, I mean, before that, I'd done some sprint triathlon, which are obviously the shortest distance that you can do, and that was a good distance. I mean, I wouldn't say easy by any means, but I mean, I would say for probably an average guy that's into some sort of fitness, it's not gonna kill you. So I was like, all right, well, eventually my goal is an Ironman, so here's the next step. I want to do an Olympics. So yeah, the first year when we were training, I mean, I was training hard. I mean, I'd gotten up to where on my long run day, I'd ran a half marathon pretty easy. And then, even my mileage getting up to that was killing it. Then COVID happened, and then I, signed up for the one event, the first Olympic, then it got canceled, then it got rescheduled. So then I was kind of training for that, and it got canceled. So then basically the whole year was out essentially for that. So that was pretty detrimental in terms of just the mental part of it, trying to stay focused. So then coming back this year, then I signed up for again. I had it. And yeah, I mean, I was fully my goal was to compete. You know, I obviously I'm with my where I was at. I mean, I had to be realistic. Obviously, I want to go out. You know, you always want to win it, but I had to try and set some realistic goals for this first one. And so my goal was to get top 10 in my age group, which I did. And so that was good to accomplish that goal. And, obviously you learn a lot with doing a new distance compared to the sprints, because it is, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that different, but it's completely different, because then a lot more things like pace and certain things start coming into effect, especially if you want to be competitive. And so that's kind of one thing that I did. I did some training with a guy here in town that does Ironmans, and he kind of showed me just some techniques as far as swimming goes. And I went and swam in open water with him a few times, and so I did some things differently this time around to try and get ready. But ultimately, you learn a lot every time, and so obviously I know what I'm going to do different for this next one that I'm going to sign up for. I basically went all out. The swimming is probably my weak point. Biking is my strong point, and then running would probably be my second weak point of what I would consider. So I focused a lot on swimming this year to try and get my technique up a little bit, cut some speed down, and then obviously hit the other two pretty hard as well. But so yeah, the one I did this year, went out, killed the swim. I mean, it was awesome. I didn't feel that way when I was out in the water, because I felt like everyone kept passing me. But as far as my time went, I was really impressed with my time. But the problem was, then I get there and I get on the biking. My biking, like I said, is my strong point, but I just go all out every time I'm on the bike. I really don't pace at all. And so between those two things, I just pretty much completely wiped myself out. And so by the time I got to the run, I mean, it took me until mile 2 to get my legs under me. And then even after that, I hit a wall. I mean, I was trying to energize the whole time during the bike. I was eating some stuff. I was trying to get ready. But I think I just taxed myself too much on the other two. And so by the time I got to the run, I suffered pretty big. I mean, like I said, I still finished pretty good, but that's my one big thing. As I look back at that, I'm like, man, if I could have kept my pace more of what I was wanting on the run, I think I could have actually placed a lot higher. So that's what I know going into this next one I'm going to do, that I'm going to do different.
Yeah, that's a go. And like, because you're more muscle bound and have a lot less fat on your body, it's essential, obviously, because we're not buoyant as we possibly could be in the water. Is that, like you said, it's really focusing on the technique, on being hydrodynamic as much as possible, and making sure those legs are up high, because it's very difficult as you get more, the leaner that you get, that those legs, they kind of sink a lot more. But you did well with the swim. And then when you're on the bike, if that is your strong point and you're going to be pushing it and you're feeling competitive, yeah, you can get ahead of yourself. There's no doubt about it. And what I found at the end of my events, because I would pretty much do the same, I would knock it down a couple of gears for the last, say, mile or so. So the legs were spinning, getting rid of a lot of the lactic acid, if you feel there's a lot of lactic acid there at the time, and then start slow-ish on the run. Because the funny thing is, again, what I notice with myself and with clients, when you go from the bike, because you're going at such a rate, you're going at such a speed, now you go into the run, it feels very slow. So you tend to run a lot faster in the beginning than what you should. I remember I'd look at my watch and look at the pace. I'm like, wow, that's way too quick. Slow things down a little bit, because you do gas out, and it's very, very difficult to recover. It's not as if you can hydrate that easily or fuel yourself that easily on the run as you can on the bike. But nevertheless, you did really, really well. And of course, these events are all about learning, the learning experiences that for next time, so you can put that into your bag of tricks and pull it out to give you the finish that you want. So what is your next goal now, moving from here?
Well, my next goal is, so like right now I'm kind of in a little bit what I'd call a bulking phase. I'm trying to get my strength up, trying to get the size back up a little bit. And then basically I'm going to try and do another try at the same time. I might do the same one just because, like I said, I want to not necessarily comfortability in terms of the mind part, but just the fact of, you want to go back and compete. And that the one I do is actually a little bit different than some other ones. Distances are a little bit off. So I want an apples to apples comparison. I want to go back in there and I want to crush my previous, what I did last time. I want to, like this last time it was reach top 10, this time I might go a little more aggressive and be top 5, and just see what I can do. And, doing it, making that choice this far in advance, knowing that's going to happen, it gives me a little more time to do those things. Like you said, focus on some of those things. I think it was you that told me too that, even though biking is my strong point, it's also what you're spending the most time on, in terms of in the race. So don't negate that just because it's your strong point. Still focus on that because you're spending the most time on that. And so there's some things like that I'd probably do a little bit different. Obviously, improving my technique on swim, hitting biking pretty hard, and hitting the running pretty hard. Just kind of trying to hit all of them in a night, not just like I said in the past. I mean, there's some sprints I did that, I was focusing only on swimming, a little on biking, and no running. So it's like I was my mental kind of way I attack everything has changed a ton. And then obviously working with you and some stuff, and even the pointers that you just gave me just now. I never even would have thought of doing stuff like that. But yeah, because mine, I look down at my watch as I run. I'm like, at first I'm pumped. I'm like, man, it feels like I'm barely moving. You look down at your face, you're like, man, I'm flying. But yeah, then you hit a wall and then you're done. So those are all some good things to do. But yeah, that's my next goal. Do another Olympic probably this year. Try and do a top 5, and then hopefully from that build on, and then try and pull the trigger on either half Ironman or Ironman after that.
Got to do the half Ironman. Got to do the half Ironman. That's exactly the process that I did, was the Olympic and then half and then full. And I tell you what, there isn't much of a difference between the half and the full in regards to the strain that it puts on your body, really, because you push yourself a lot faster and harder on the half than you do on the full, because you really, really pace yourself. So I found that, after doing any of the halves that I've done, I was still just as sore as the fulls, So, once you do the half, you pretty much know that you can do a full. You would just take it a lot easier. That's all,
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so, well, obviously this isn't a sales pitch for anybody to sign up with me. It is application anyway with one-on-one training. But what would you say is the main difference for people out there? They're following a program, maybe they're following mine, maybe they're following someone else's, like a video trainer. What's a major difference that you found that helped you actually having one-on-one with me, as opposed to like following one of my programs or a video trainer or someone else's?
Well, like I mentioned before, a huge part of it's accountability. Just having that one-on-one connection with you. And then obviously from your standpoint, a vested interest in what I'm doing. That's huge on me, because I'm typically a guy that doesn't want to let anyone down. So I kind of take that personal, in terms of that relationship, and definitely want to, you're investing time in me. I'm investing time and money in this. I need to get my part out of it. You want to get your part out of it in terms of, investing that much time into a person. And so it's like, you kind of just take that. Whereas, the video trainers and stuff within their own respect are great. You don't have someone holding you accountable to do that. It's just you, and yourself. And so if you can't do that, hold your own self accountable. And, I know there's people out there that say they can. I'm not saying they can't, but I just to find someone that's going to have that much accountability to stick to something on their own, it's kind of tough. And sometimes it's just the kick in the pants that you need. You need that one-on-one. You need someone talking to you that's not necessarily even just holding you accountable, but also being encouragement. Like I said, I would send pictures and stuff to you, and I'm like, man, in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm not seeing a whole lot of results. I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. But you would come back with, man, I see results here and there. And then I look at it more and I'm like, oh, okay. Because we're always more self-critical of ourselves, typically. And so to have someone that's coaching you and reassuring you that what you're doing is working. And then, like I said, the other stuff follows, the scale, the measuring tape, those types of things start coming into that. And so I would say that's the biggest difference. I would say one of the other biggest differences between just you and me personally and in a personal trainer. I've had, I've kind of gone through phases of the whole CrossFit. At one point I was huge into powerlifting. So I had a trainer for powerlifting. And he holds world records now. So, it's a well-known guy. And that was great in terms of, my strength went up, but there was just no connection. There wasn't really he was what I would say in it for, just in it to do it. He had a spreadsheet that had probably an Excel sheet in there that he had changed, numbers on, and it just didn't feel that personal. And that was the biggest difference. And I think that's why I was a little hesitant even still connecting with you, is just like, well, I hope this is better than what I've experienced in the past. And it was. I mean, it was way better. Like I said, it was a transformation. It was a life change. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just having that connection where you actually have a guy that cares about the little victories, that cares about the training, that cares about the end goal, that wants to see you succeed. It's not about, you know, accolades or anything like that on your own. It's just about helping people. And that's kind of where my background is too. I mean, so I was able to connect with you on that point.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you very much for saying that, Brady, because this is, I'm sure you feel the same, where you feel very fortunate that you are doing what you're doing to help other people. I feel very fortunate in the position that I am. I'm fortunate that there's such a thing as social platforms or Zoom podcasts where we can communicate and get these stories out there. Because when I started training, I would just have to look at a before and after picture in a magazine and maybe a supplement that's next to it, and just think, okay, how do I communicate? How do I find out if, what would work for me? There was no way. But now we have these opportunities of getting this message out. And I've mentioned this on other podcasts. Not everyone relates to me. They think I work out for a living, where they relate to other stories where people have children, they have jobs where they're working 60 to 100 hours, or had a dad bod or whatever. So this really, really helps us create a crowd source of inspiration to go, you know what? I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to invest in myself, as opposed to just putting it off or prioritizing materialistic possession. But obviously you don't have to sign up with me to do one-on-one training. You can do whatever you want. But the message is invest in your health. Invest in what makes you feel good about yourself, so you can be a better person to others as well. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me, Brady, and getting this message out there and hopefully inspiring other people to make a change. Is there anything that you wanted to mention at all, Brady, before we close off?
No, I mean, the only thing I would mention is just kind of like I said, as far as the inspiration goes. I mean, I was the typical person that was sitting out there watching all the stuff, watching other people transform, doing whatever. And I thought, you always come up with excuses. Everyone will come up with an excuse. And I was one of those guys. In my head, I thought, nope, this is where, this is just the body it's going to be. Those people's circumstances are different. They had it easier, they, whatever, genetic, whatever the excuse was. And I would say for me, the biggest deal that I would say to anybody is anybody can do it. I mean, like I said, when I started this program, I thought, and I was in denial. I thought, man, I only have 10 pounds to lose. I'd be happy with that. Then to come out of it 34 pounds lighter, several inches off my waist, be in better shape than what I was when I got married or in high school. I mean, to actually be, somewhat jacked. I mean, that does, to a guy in his 30s, that isn't even on the radar to most guys, especially when you're in the family mode, you're in the career mode, working that many hours. You kind of put that off to the side. And I'd say, man, you need to take a quick, hard look at yourself, because anybody can do it. You just got to pull the trigger. You got to make that choice to be that person. And honestly, this is the first step. And that's what I tell anybody. It's like, if you are a guy that's struggling with taking that first step, then just pull the trigger. Get into this program, get on the one-on-one training. You need the accountability. You need someone that's going to motivate you. And, and I, like I said, I would say I'm an average guy. There was no tricks or anything about it. It was just hard work. It was dedication, and it was all the pieces put together. I mean, it's the diet, it's the exercise, it's the biohacks, it's the mental, improvement. It's all those things. And quite frankly, it's the best thing I've ever done. Because if you want a full transformation, like I said, not just the six pack, not the body. This is what someone needs to do. And if you're, like I said, if you're sitting there making excuses, then you're only hurting yourself, you're hurting your family, those around you. And it's kind of funny, because I look back at pictures now from before I started, and I'm just like disgusted. Why didn't anyone say something to me? Why weren't you like, hey, hop on a treadmill? And so, that part was a little eye-opening. And like I said, most of them are like, oh, we just, you gained it over time. So, you just kind of get used to that person. You get, people, but the biggest confidence boost, and another reason why people should do the transformation, is just once you get done, to see the results, to see what you've done and accomplished. That's huge. Obviously you're going to get the accolades in terms of the people telling you good job. And, I can't believe how much weight you lost. And, that's just going to be a huge confidence boost. And I mean, it's just going to be a life changer. And so I would encourage anybody to really take a hard look at it and quit making excuses.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. A lot of people do use excuses like, yeah, you're in your 30s, I've got a couple of kids, I've got to prioritize my career, I don't have time. And the chances are you have the time. It all comes down to how bad you want it and making the time, prioritizing the time, being efficient with your time. A lot of people waste time. They don't know where they lose it. But until you force yourself into that position, you don't know how to find it. It's like, if you're looking at a property and you're like, maybe that house is out of my price range, but maybe I could stretch it. Chances are, if you can stretch it, you'll find a way of affording that house and making ends meet to do it. You just have to be uncomfortable in order to force yourself into a comfortable situation to a certain degree.
Right. Definitely.
But anyway, thank you once again, Brady. Really appreciate it. And it is an honor to train you, and seeing not only the transformation that you've gone through, but hearing your transformation as well. It is inspiring to obviously people listening, but it's very inspiring to myself. So can't wait to assist you through this next phase that we have planned now. So thank you very much again. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you listening. My name is Kris Gethin. This is the Knowledge and Mileage podcast. Remember, if you are listening to this through the podcast, please do subscribe. And same, if you're viewing this on YouTube, please comment below if you have any questions. And of course, subscribe. Thank you very much. We are out.
Thank you ever so much for listening. My name is Kris Gethin, and I am out.